Oh, shit. I need to pull the microphone forward.
Oh, me too.
Boop. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you
All
hear
right.
me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Oh, my God. I hate seeing myself on them.
No, you look fine.
I'm not going to look.
Don't look. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another episode of the Peasant Party Podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Warren. Before we jump into things, do you want to hear a fun fact?
Well, yeah, of course.
Did you know Stephen King's wife almost divorced him because he continuously listened to Mambo No. 5 over and over again?
Where did you find this information?
It was like a whole article. It was all over like TikTok. There was
Dead
a whole
ass,
article.
but they're still together?
Yeah, but she almost divorced him because he kept playing Mambo No. 5.
It's a fucking good song, bro. It's a good song.
Yeah.
Worth it. Worth every second.
Mambo No. 5's a fun one.
Dude, I love that song. That song gets me going every
Are there
time.
any songs that if like a guy didn't like them would be a deal breaker for you? Like, do you have a favorite song, like a karaoke song where if a guy was like, I fucking hate that song, you'd be like, I'm out?
Ooh, I have like artists like that, you know, that I listen to. Right now my karaoke shit is Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, okay.
And if somebody didn't like Fleetwood Mac, I would think there was something intrinsically wrong with them.
Yeah.
Like, never admit that. If you don't like Fleetwood Mac, don't ever say that shit out loud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. If someone didn't like Mr. Brightside, I'd be out.
Yeah.
I've had that happen where someone was like, oh, I hate this song. And I'm like, I fucking hate this person. Bye.
Ciao, babe. Love you.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. We're back, and you should introduce yourself again because I hijack things.
Hi, I'm Annabelle, and I'm your sister and the co-host lately.
What's new with you?
Wow, yeah, it's been a time. Actually, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because this is something that just happened in the last, 30 minutes. Ooh. I feel like this always happens when I come in here. Okay, I don't want to take too much time because I know we got a lot on the list. What is your take on vanish mode on Instagram messages? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do you have any take on that when somebody switches their messages to vanish mode? Because I'm talking to this dude, and I'm pretty sure, not talking to him. He was like an old flame.
Yeah.
And he popped back up in my messages. I'm pretty sure he's got a girlfriend, and he just switched our messages to vanish mode.
There's no good reason to be on because
right?
I feel like it's also like it's something.
What is the reason?
It's something you have to opt into almost. Like it's like there's
and
the
other person can see it. Like, you do it, and then you're, signing the other person up for illicit activities.
But, I mean, at the least, though, at least it tells you you're signed up for vanish mode, so it can kind of flag you some things up. But I think just because I feel like Snapchat, some people just like Snapchat, and the default with it is the vanish mode. But, saving the messages is something you have to, opt into. So, just by default, they vanish. On Instagram, vanish mode, you have to, go out of your way to opt into, and it's, kind of intentional. Yes. So, it's, I just don't see it there's not a not sketchy reason for it.
Exactly, right? It's specifically for cheating,
drug deals,
drug deals, I suppose.
Maybe if you're trying to get your boyfriend or girlfriend a gift and you're trying to communicate with someone to buy a gift and you need it to be in vanish mode so that you don't tip them off about a gift, but that is the most extreme thing and the only positive thing I see. I think it's super sketchy.
Boo, bitch. I'm gonna block this dude. If there's one thing that I do not play with anymore as a grown adult woman, I'm not playing with a dude I'm not playing with another woman's man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I also think that's how murder-suicides happen or double homicides.
Oh my God, what?
Well, no, but you find somebody and they have a significant other already. Yeah. And then you jump into that. It's that's how murder-suicides happen.
Yeah,
that's just cheating stuff. There's just danger all over that.
Okay.
So yeah. I don't know. For me, when I was single, if somebody ever had a significant other, they were just off limits. There was no good reason to go down the road of flirty back and forth with somebody who was basically spoken for. So
right?
Yeah, don't go down that road.
And it's just so, even if it is a successful relationship in the end, you got to go through so much mess first, to have to deal with the fallout of your partner finding out that you have cheated on them, or, and then it's someone that they know, and it's a huge disaster. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went out with this dude last night, and he was telling me about how he dated this girl who, was with her for a while, and then she cheated on him at Burning Man with his best friend.
Oof.
It was just like, and they're married. They're still married. Been married. It's like, that is rough, babe. That's a tough one. Haven't been there yet.
That sucks for them.
I know.
But that's what we're talking about today.
What?
Manners and etiquette.
Lovely. I have those.
We know a few things.
I got lots of those.
No,
I'd say.
In all seriousness, when it comes to manners, etiquette, and dating, basically because we have kind of in our new modern day dating, we have all this new technology, and there's not really like a spoken set of rules for what is polite and what isn't. Like what's rude, what's polite.
Oh my God, yeah.
If you think of like a lot of other social norms that kind of go way back, they didn't have like the technology in place where you kind of had to create new rules for it. So yeah, kind of on that note, that's the road we're going to go down. I think we'll start with the quick hit question. Our first quick hit question, which I remember, is what do you owe a first date, if anything?
This is such like an interesting and kind of broad topic, and I definitely have like thoughts on it. But
it's a broad question we can narrow down.
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, to the point of politeness, I do think like, because yes, technology has changed at such a crazy rapid pace that people that are perhaps older, a little bit less like, technology fluent, have a different idea of manners.
Oh, totally.
So it's gonna be different for everyone, I'm sure. You don't owe a first date anything, except I think it to show up. If you have very much agreed on this and they're expecting you to be there, I think you owe them that. I would be really like crushed and upset if I set up an entire, date and was like excited to meet this person or see this person, and then they either, if you bail, at least you're giving them a heads up, but like to not show up, to get stood up, like I think you owe them to not do that.
Oh, totally. And yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, with kind of the older generation, I feel like a lot of other manners, like you get taught those growing up. It's like, hold the door open for this person. You know, knock on the door and go get them rather than honking the horn, stuff like that.
But you don't owe them that, right?
No, totally. I think because of that, there's all these like confusion about what's right, what's wrong, manners. Like you can't go to your parents and say like, is it right to use Snapchat or texting? No, as far as the like what people owe, because I think like the you don't owe your date anything statement can get I feel like weaponized, because you don't owe anybody anything, nobody owes anybody anything, but then you'll hear some people say, well, they didn't owe you anything, or I didn't owe them anything after like standing somebody up or something like that, or cutting out of a date early with no explanation, like that kind of thing. So I feel like that gets weaponized. What do you think is like best practice polite to do on a first date? And we can look at a date where you go into it and it's meh, like, so date that's going well, by nature you're polite, you're excited, but date that's going meh, like there's not going to be another date, but you don't hate this person, they're not behaving in a way that's awful, and then a bad date. What do you think? You go to the date, say you go to the date, you sit down, and right away you're not like attracted to this person, you don't see a future date, but it's a pleasant enough time. What do you owe this person? What's the polite thing to do for this person?
So the polite thing, which, it kind of does blend into, like, what do you owe them? Which, to me, basic respect. Respect for a person. Even if you kind of aren't feeling it, like, at least, show them that you, like, you respect them in some way. I think you have to like at least show that you're engaged, you're listening, and like looking them in the eyes. But when you say meh, like I'm assuming that means like, okay, they're boring. But if it's meh because they're saying things that are really turning you off, I almost feel like you owe them to show them that is not hitting for you, and you don't appreciate that. Like you have to respect yourself as well. So if they're saying weird stuff, which I've totally been on plenty of dates like that, I have to show with my body language or facial expression or with my words that like this, I'm clearly like not connecting with you on this, and I don't want you to think that I'm on your side when you're talking about this.
Totally. Yeah, do you think there's a version where it's like you seem too excited, or like you risk seeming too interested to where someone could see you as like leading them on? Because one time, so I made a TikTok at one point where I think it was something where you end the date and you say to the person, yeah, I had a nice time, even if you know that you don't see another date. And someone, of course, because TikTok lives in the extremes, people were saying in the comment section, you know, if you don't see a future date, don't say I had a nice time. You're leading this person on.
Boo, bitch, because a lot of times after you have to like digest the date later when you're not in front of them. You can't, nobody's sitting there thinking the whole time, it's going really well, I'm gonna let her know. Or like, ooh, I'm definitely not gonna see this person later. I'm gonna finish out the date and then, you know, try not to lead them on. Like a lot of times you have interactions and then a few hours later, next day, you're talking about it with a friend, you're like, that's weird. Yeah. Why did you say that?
I also think, though, even if you know, it's like you probably did have, like, fun. If it wasn't horrible, like, you know, the hour you spent maybe trying a new restaurant and you were in front of a pleasant person. You thought they were attractive enough to go on the date in the first place. You just didn't
you're having
connect.
a good time with yourself, too. Like, if I go out with a dude and we're having a couple drinks or whatever, like...
You're already there.
I'm having a good time with myself and he's there, so...
Totally.
don't be led on by that.
Totally. How long do you think you have to stay for? So you go in the date, and maybe you can look at, if you want to put meh and bad into two separate categories, how long do you owe it to them to stay for? And maybe say within the first 5-10 minutes, you're like, something's off here.
Within the first 5 to 10. So like,
are
we assuming this is like a dinner date? You're sitting down for dinner?
Dinner, drinks, whatever a first date typically is for you.
Okay.
And if you want to look at it as like, meh, just, you know, not feeling the spark, and bad in two separate categories, that's totally fine as well.
1 to 2 drinks, I would say. I'm going to give them enough time just in case they're real nervous. 1 drink, and then, you know, if it's kind of like, I think I could get, like, just enough to, you know, not make somebody feel bad, 2 drinks. But shit, what if you meet them for dinner and then
that's why dinner dates are like a shit thing to do.
Yeah, too hard to get out of.
You're stuck there. Yeah. That's why, like, it's like, whenever women are like, oh, I want dinner dates, it's like, is your time not fucking valuable? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And especially getting now back into the dating game, I'm like, I don't, nice guys will ask me out on dinner dates, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man, I don't know.
I was also someone who sucked at faking it. Like, I can't phone it in and pretend I'm having fun if I'm not having fun. Like, I look too obvious. Like, I'm a shitty liar. So, like, I would, the drink dates were always, like, my move. I always felt like coffee just felt too, like, I've done too much, like, remote work in a coffee shop for a coffee date to be enjoyable. But, yeah, like, I totally, I think an hour and 30 minutes to an hour and, like, 1 drink, maybe 2. But even then, sometimes, especially if, like, you know, just as a woman where the guy might insist on paying, sometimes, like, in the back of my mind, I'm kind of like, like...
Yeah, exactly. And gotta be clear about one thing. You're never stuck. You're not physically stuck in this date. And I understand the fear of, like, him getting angry or irate or, you know, causing a scene or it being violent. But I think the biggest fear about that is just feeling bad, like being perceived as being a bitch and like it's your decision and you're the villain here. You don't want to feel that way by getting up and leaving or being like, I'm not into this at all. It's more self-reflective than I think it is actually like I need to let this man know.
Yeah. Well, because I think a lot of other people think too, like they're always thinking from like their own perspective, and they're just like, if someone went on a date and then, you know, they get the text next day saying like, oh, you know, I wasn't really feeling it, that person went into the date, you know, maniacally trying to go and like, you know, use them for their wallet, or like, you know, they were just trying to get like one thing out of it. And then they didn't get it. And then, you know, it was just this big maniacal plan and they were evil and hiding that. A lot of times it's like people don't want to feel bad. Like people just like want treatment that just isn't human. Like, why can't this person just be honest with me? Why can't they just tell me like, I'm not feeling it, I'm not interested, or, you know, when they say, oh, you know, I don't feel a spark, why can't they just give me, like, a bullet point list of all the things they don't like? Why be vague? It's like, because that's not human. It's also not polite, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's not good manners.
Yeah, definitely. I think, the after my wallet thing, that's... I mean, especially if we're talking about couple first dates, like, that's such a myth because no, at least none of the women really that I know, real life women, would say that, like, a free dinner is worth sitting with a man who does not respect her or who she doesn't like.
Yeah.
Because you have to sit there and engage with them, and that is your time. Your time is not worth, like, oh, a nice dinner at Suerte. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I would way rather do my own damn thing than get nice food and have to talk to somebody that I cannot stand.
It's like I could afford the restaurant by myself.
Yeah.
Like, and my time's valuable. Like, I know, like, if you break down my salary and what I guess I get paid by the hour, it's more than this dinner.
Yep.
It just is. So it's like, that was always, like, I don't know. That's always, like, like an annoying thing to see. I'm sure maybe it happens sort of maybe in a younger demo, but, like, I think there's certain people that are just way too afraid of that happening, and it gets in the way of, you know, behaving in a way that's normal on dates. And we'll get into what we owe in terms of rejection, and that's kind of the next point, but we're going to read our listener question first. Great first date, no second, feel led on. And as always, I need glasses again. I really need to get those glasses. I, 28 male, went on a first date with a woman, 25 female, met off Hinge. It was honestly one of the best dates I'd ever been on. What I thought would be an hour or two at a beer garden became a 6-hour adventure bopping around the city. We made out a few times, and at the end of the date, I said, "This has been awesome. We should do this again soon." She excitedly agreed, and I even tossed around some days and times that could work, but we didn't lock anything down. She sent a thank you, had fun text before I could even get home, and I replied saying, "Can't wait to see you again soon." No response, but it was pretty late. Next morning, I sent a text hoping to lock down date 2 that week. Crickets. I thought she might be busy at work, but when I didn't hear anything by 6, I sent a question mark. Still crickets. Finally, 10:30 p.m., she responds with a boilerplate rejection text. "Hey, had fun on our date. You're a great guy, but I'm not sure I felt a romantic connection. Wish you the best. Hope you find what you're looking for!" I replied saying I was surprised and asked if I did anything wrong, which was only met with a "you're great, just didn't feel a spark." I've gotten and sent plenty of texts like this before, but in those cases, the mismatch was obvious, and there never seemed to be any surprises. This situation has me confused. What did I do wrong? I feel like I'm good at picking up on social cues. She seemed like she was having just as much fun as I was. The cynic in me would think, was she in it for the food? But there was no food. Her 4 beers throughout the day cost me $25 max, so I don't think that was the case. So if she knew she didn't see a second date, why stay so long? Why ask deep questions and try to get to know someone you had no intention of seeing again? Why didn't she at least speak up when I said, "We should do this again"? Any thoughts on what might have happened here?
Oh my God, I'm her. I'm her. This is about me. It has to be. This is insane. I feel like this happens all the time where I'm like, I'll go out on a date, I guess, with just some guy, and we have a lot of fun, go do a bunch of cool activities, and then it's kind of like the next day I'm like, well, do I feel motivated to
So
go
take
deeper?
this man into, I guess, the quote-unquote mind of a murderer.
Okay.
What goes through your head as you're doing that, and what happens the next day that is this big drastic change?
Well, honestly, if I'm being honest, one thing that, oh God, this is going to sound so dumb, and this is coming from my lady brain, but I will, like, have a date like that, you know, you sit, you chill, you laugh for a long time, you have similar interests, and you have a lot of fun, and then if I feel like he's too into me, and he's a little bit too, like, hypnotized, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go on another date with this guy, because I don't want to be put on a pedestal like that right off the bat, and I think I don't know. I guess it's situational, but
do you think it maybe makes the stakes too high?
Yeah,
like you become a bigger asshole if you do another date that you're not totally sure about?
Yes, exactly. And he's been totally... Yeah, I think that really is what it is. She probably was like, it was a fun date, and I would go on another one, you know, if we were the same level of excited about it. But because...
Like, she doesn't want to be... Yeah, you don't want to be the asshole.
Yeah.
I've had the same experience. And at first I'll tell this guy, I think both of us agree, this is not a maniacal plan. I don't think she was going through the date. No. I don't think she was.
With you, for sure. It's just,
I'm somebody who, like, the date... Like, I think that the feeling I have after leaving a date and the high that you get on a date, even if there is no alcohol...
Yeah.
There's something about the person in front of you, and then the next day you go to sleep in your own bed. You wake up the next day sober, maybe you interact with people at work or other people you know, and you mull over the date. And there's just some things where you just come back to reality.
Yeah.
And, like, there's certain things that hit you that weren't hitting you in the moment.
Like what?
Like, you know, like, oh, this thing was kind of weird, or like, oh, this thing that I was so excited about, like, it was kind of goofy, or like, like, you know,
Totally.
I just, and then it was, of course, like you said, where it's like, oh, this person seems to be moving quickly. Like, I remember, like, in probably like 2019, early 2020, when I was getting like when I was out of a relationship recently, and it was just like people that felt more ready to go than I was, and it was like, you're moving too fast, like. Maybe I'm not ready for this. And it was all about me. And, like, it's not fair to bring that onto somebody. I would rather, like, dip after date 1 than dip after date 3 kind of thing. And, like, have to be, like, it's me, like, not wanting to get ahead of myself. And then, of course, like, I have no idea what this woman's story is. And it's more, like, regardless of, like, whether or not she's just out of a relationship or something like that. But there's a lot of people where it's, like, you maybe, like, get ahead of yourself on the date, or, like, your version of just, like, having fun maybe seems excited to somebody else. Like, it seems just, like, overly excited.
Like, she's really into me.
Yeah.
But she's just really into what you're saying.
Yeah.
like, what you guys are talking about or what you're doing, you know?
Yeah. And, like, one issue I ran into, like, when I was, like, single dating was I felt like I had too much fun on first dates. Almost to the point where it was, like... I was going to go down where I feel like I was starting to go down the road with someone who wasn't the right fit, because I knew all the right first date questions. I knew how to do the right first impression. And it just felt like, you know, first dates was like, I could just have fun with anybody, to the point where it was kind of like I needed to assess the next day.
It's performance art.
Yeah. and like, I feel like I'm good at like first date personality. I had like other like little layer questions to ask off this. No, she wasn't faking it. I wasn't faking it on the dates. Like, and in the moment, like, whenever people like, oh, they like led you on, or like they had a maniacal plan, people genuinely believe what they're saying when they're saying it. Everything, like, when I would be on those dates getting ahead of myself, and the next day I would think like, oh shit, like, I genuinely believed what I was saying. Like, I had fun, I would totally do this again. I meant it when I said it. Like, maybe I said it a little too carelessly. Maybe if I was single now going on dates, I would think twice before saying that. But 26?
Yeah, for sure. Or, like, they make a really bad off-color joke or something that, like, really does rub you the wrong way, but because you've been, like, having a good time up to that point, you kind of, like, courtesy laugh at it, you know? And then later, when you're thinking about it, you're like, that was actually... big red flag.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it's like there is a red flag to laugh off.
Right.
Sometimes it isn't, though. Sometimes it's like, the heck is a thing, like the
totally,
this thing, like, sometimes it's like you can't even explain what it is. There's just something that's not there.
Yeah,
definitely.
I
I think one other commentary I have on this is the idea of like the marathon first dates. Like, this is why I never liked Saturday first dates. I had whole videos where I was like, no Saturday first dates. But like, sometimes when like these dates have the opportunity to like spiral and keep going, like, oh, like, you know, this has been fun, let's just like go to another location and another location and another location. Like, they can feel like you're on date 10 after date 1, and to the other person it might just be date 1.
Oh, yeah, if you're going all over the place.
Yeah. Like,
dang.
I've had those, and, like, that was one of the reasons, like, I was, like, weekday night, first date, like, that way you can't get ahead of yourself, it's a school night, and, like, there's not a bunch of time to just, like, bop around the world the way there is on, like, Saturdays, because I think that can, like, get people ahead of themselves. So I would say to this guy, as you look at what to do going forward, I don't think he did anything wrong. Like, I think something that kind of comes with like these situations, like, usually you are aware and perceptive when something is off. Like, I think if you told a joke that didn't land and she like giggled a little weird, or like, you know, you felt like something was off, like, that was probably real. And if you didn't feel that, like, I genuinely believe like someone who would write like a letter like this is like self-aware.
Would you, so if somebody asked you like, hey, you know, what did I do wrong? Would you tell them like, oh yeah, I was actually like really put off by that like joke that you made or that thing you said, or would you just let it go?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where like the whole like feedback thing comes in, because he asked for feedback. First, I think something, if you ask for date 2 on date 1, like, you probably are going to get a person, like, if you say, we should totally do this again sometime, like, no, I don't think it's a human thing to do to be like, no, I'm not interested. Like, I think most people would, like, kind of, like, smile along with that, just because it makes you, like, especially for, like, walking off to the car or something, like, I think a lot of people would kind of, like, I don't know, laugh that off. So I think I wouldn't put as much stock in that. I wouldn't ask somebody like that in general, like, oh, like, date 2 to date 1. But, like, yeah, like, the feedback thing,
This happened to me, dude.
Do guys ever like ask you for like feedback when you would do like when you'd send rejection texts or anything? Or did you just like voluntarily give it or?
Well, so man, this happened to me like last week, and it's kind of different because it's like a client type thing too. I have this client. I had to fire him as a client essentially because things kept pushing and pushing further. And honestly, he was a great client. Loved doing tattoos for him, but like, the sexual energy was like really picking up, and it was kind of the type of thing where I was like, I can handle it, whatever. He's my client, you know. I can kind of flirt with my clients and maintain a good boundary. But it felt like every time I'd turn around, he would inch a little closer, and then like, whoa, Jesus, and I'd turn around, he's closer, Jesus. And, but we had a great session, talked about all kinds of things. He definitely was a little, but then at the end, we had been discussing about doing like murals in his house. He wanted me to do some murals, and it sounded like a really cool idea, and I really wanted to, because I've done murals before. They're super awesome and fun, and I can have creative control. I was just going to draw them on the wall pretty much. And he made a comment about like, oh, your shorts, like, those look so good on you, blah, blah, blah. I would really hate it if you wear those while you're doing the murals in my house. And I was kind of, I sort of made a joke about it, but I was like, what? Like, this isn't like you thought this was like me wearing a little maid outfit and pretending to clean your house? Like, I'm doing work for you.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I quoted you like 3,000. You think I would? It's going to cost you a lot more than that, babe. Like, you think you're going to be watching me, like, do this? Like, standing there staring at my butt? Like, whoa, whoa. But after that, I kind of, like, cleared up whatever, or just kind of, like, let it go. We even got a drink after and, like, talked, and it was fine. And he was profusely just, like, grateful about this tattoo that I gave him, and we'd had, you know, and it was a good conversation. But then the next day, I was like, you know, and he was still texting me, still asking me to go to dinner and stuff, and I was just like, it sucks because he's so gassed on, like, the work that I've done for him so far, but I got to draw the boundary right now and just tell him, like, hey, man, I'm not going to do those murals for you. I'm sorry. Like,
did you tell him why?
Yep. I said I didn't realize that this was supposed to be, like, a sexual voyeuristic thing.
Oof.
Which is not what he wanted to hear. He was like, wait, what? Sexual voyeuristic thing? What do you mean? And I explained to him. I was like, well, you made that comment about my shorts, and I just didn't think that you were going to be standing there watching me. Like, I thought you liked my work. And that is what I think really hit him, because he at that moment realized, like, oh my God, like, because he does like my work, but because of these little comments, it really like compromised the value of it. And it ended, I mean, he apologized, but it ended with him saying, I wish you well, and then not talking to me anymore. And it sucks because I lost a client. Honestly, he was a friend. As much as he was, like, horny, he was a friend. And when you draw that boundary, you pretty much have to know, like, they're going to cut you out for the most part.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's all or nothing usually with people like that.
I knew that it would, like, hurt him or embarrass him, and it was just kind of like, you know what? I got to be real with you. Like, this is exactly where you stepped over the line.
Yeah. It's tough, too, because it's like, they're always, like, just enough in the land of plausible deniability where they can say, whoa, that wasn't my intention. Because no one's going to come right out and say, oh, I want to grab that ass. Like, they're going to say these little veiled comments.
They push a little closer.
Closer.
Yeah, like the boiling frog heating up. And I can usually, you know, and that was me jumping out of the boiling water. Like, at that point, it was kind of like, okay, I'm a strong woman. I have, like, power of my own, and I can put my foot down here, and I'm not going to feel too bad about it, you know?
Totally. But that's why people maybe don't give feedback when they end something with someone, especially because you've ended something with someone. You're not trying to reason with them. Like, I think you tell people maybe what they did wrong when you're looking to reason with them and solve a problem with them. Like, if you're ending something, it's kind of like, what's the point? And then, of course, it's like, it just gives the person, like, ammo to, like, argue with you or try to, like, sell themselves and stuff. So that's maybe why people don't. I do think, like, don't feel a spark is not all, like, I think sometimes there's a version of don't feel a spark where you kind of know what went into that spark, and maybe it's not something uncomfortable to say out loud, but sometimes don't feel a spark is just, you don't know what it is. It's intangible. It's why women can't explain why Pete Davidson is hot, but they know why. Like they can't explain it, but they know why, even if they don't personally see Pete Davidson as hot. It's like one of those things.
Yeah.
Like I can't, like it's the butterfly in my chest. Like I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, and it's the energy that they give off, you know?
And like
it almost doesn't have much to do with like how they look.
No,
it's really...
I've had two equally attractive guys, and one I'm just like mesmerized by, and the other I just don't feel it. And
dude, I will get turned off. I can't. I tried valiantly to date this guy, and I just could not get into it. And it was genuinely because when I like did end up kissing him because I was like, come on, bitch, you can do this. Just. I was trying to get over my ex. I was like, no, just do it. And when I kissed him, I could tell he was so, like, nervous and just, like, trying to go really fast that I was just like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. It's just the, you know, the anxiety. Like, I almost need you to be not as into me.
Totally.
As I'm into you.
Oh, totally.
I need you to kind of be like, whatever.
Exactly. And I guess to like piggyback off of that to the next quick hit question, what is owed in a rejection in early dating? Like, what do you owe a person that you are rejecting maybe after 1 date, 2 dates, like not far enough down the road where you would feel a need to have like a bigger breakup with them, but 1, 2, 3 dates, you know, under you're not in a relationship yet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would say, at the very least, you can lie to them, but you do have to give them some kind of, I can't go any further past this point because of this reason.
Yeah.
And leave it at that. I think the biggest reason, honestly, that I would do that, and yes, you owe it to somebody to, you know, help them feel better, but also, you never know when you're going to run into this person.
That too.
In this city, in this town, you're gonna run into them.
Yeah, you'll run into them. So yeah, I do think like first, if it's that early, I think a text is sufficient. Like, I think it was, I forget what episode it was, but someone who did a breakup in person or something for something early, and it was just like, that was a little too much. But as far as like what a breakup text should say, what should be included in that? Like, how much is too much and how much is too little? Because I have some thoughts on this, and you might know that.
Too much is,
if you had to write a breakup text out your ass right now, what would it say?
It would be curt. It would be concise.
What would it say? Just
okay. Shit. Hey, I want you to know, like, I think that you are really funny and smart, or, you know, actually say some things that are like personal to them, and maybe even name one thing that you did that you like really had fun with. But unfortunately, I'm just not in the headspace to be dating somebody consistently, and then make them a lie. I don't know. Tell them something. But
I think that's too much.
What?
So I'm a person who has hot takes on breakup texts. So first off, I think that if a person has not texted you expressing interest in seeing you again, you are not ghosting them. If someone has not texted you saying, hey, would love to see you again, and you're not interested in seeing them again, you don't have to text that person. You don't have to proactively reject a person. Stop assuming they're just sitting and waiting by the phone. I say this because I feel like, and everyone's, like, people are going to just, like, smack me in the face for this and be like, you ungrateful bitch, like, ghosting is bad. I feel like I was always on the receiving end of what felt like the most patronizing rejection text. It was like, I swear to God, these guys would write like fucking manifestos.
And it's like, for themselves.
And I know that.
Yeah.
Now, and this was before I made dating content. Now that I'm in my perspective, I have more empathy for it. I understand it more. But in the moment, because the way they would write it too, like it would come out of the blue. It would be a lot of like just assuming my feelings. Like it would be a lot of like, I'm sure this isn't what you want to hear. Like, you're a great girl. It felt like a dad telling his 6-year-old daughter that, like, trying to comfort his 6-year-old daughter after losing a soccer game.
I'm sure this isn't what you want to hear.
You're a great girl. Like, go get him next time, Tiger. Like, it felt like that.
That puts a rage in me.
And it would make me so freaking mad. Like, and to the point where it was like, I would see the text, and I would just block the number and delete it, because I wouldn't even read it. I'm like, this is gonna, no, it would just.
I ain't reading all
I'm
that.
a person, like, my big, like, kryptonite is that, like, I hate, like, my biggest pet peeves, like, I have an ego, are people talking down to me, being the last to know something, and then people thinking I'm fucking stupid. Like, those are my biggest pet peeves that just, like, drive me into a fit of rage. I need to work on them. I'm working on them, but it always pisses me the fuck off. Because I think you can toe a very fine line between, like, kind and condescending. So my hot take is, like, hey, had a great time. You probably did have a great time, but I don't see this going any further. I think don't feel a spark is not a lie. If you have a tangible thing that maybe could be helpful, but I think helpful, constructive criticism is very fluid and kind of a gray area of what's constructive, what's helpful. I think most things aren't, unless there's something where it's like, you did not look like your pictures or something like that. And even then, I don't think you should go into detail.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like, wish you the best. I think it should be 3 sentences, no adjectives, no you terms, only I terms. No, like, you could, like, you're going to go get him next time, or, like, oh, you're a great catch. Like,
totally.
Nothing like that.
Okay. Or, yeah, now that I think about it, it's like, you can kind of be like, hey, absolutely nothing personal. I'm just going through something really difficult right now.
I avoid that because then you get the dude that wants to comfort you. And then they think it's temporary. Like, it just kind of feeds into, like,
I signed an NDA and I can't tell you what it is.
Yeah, I think that feeds into, because there's some people, like, and I think most people when they're older, they hear not looking for a relationship right now and they know it means not ever, but there are some people where they really hang on to the right now. So I avoid stuff that sounds temporary.
Quick sidebar. Have you seen the videos on TikTok of the girls calling the dude that they met at the club the night before and breaking up with them?
No, that's so fucking funny.
They, like, meet a guy at the club the night before, and then they'll call him the next day and be like, Ryland? And they're like, yeah. And she's like, so, you know I'm, like, leaving later tonight, right? And he's like, oh, I thought it was yesterday, but okay, sure, soon. And she's like, look, I'm so sorry, but I don't think I can do long distance with you.
I love it. I fucking love it.
It's so good. It's so good. It's bold. I would never do it. It's so
bold.
Scary, but it's so funny, dude.
I dig it. Fucking what a win. And then feedback, I think you shouldn't volunteer. I think the one thing is, like, something where it's like, didn't look like your pictures. And I think if someone doesn't look like their pictures, you don't go past, don't look like your pictures. You don't say, like, anything, like, just, it didn't look like the pictures to me. If that. Like, I don't think you go into, like, you were bigger or, like, anything like that.
Have you ever had that happen? Showed up at a Tinder date or a Hinge date or whatever, and you feel like you got catfished? It didn't look like the right person?
I think, so, a little bit, but I think it was not far off enough to be intentional. Like, I think I think catfish exists on a spectrum. I've said that before, where it's like, you know, obviously there's an MTV version of catfish, and then there's, like, intentionally, like, lying about yourself and making yourself look better. But I also think there's kind of a midpoint where it's like people lacking self-awareness, you know, people who are maybe like delusional, maybe, you know, mental health struggles, and they gain more weight. They just haven't looked in the mirror yet. I think guys and beards and facial hair, like, I think it can grow, it can be shaved, and some guys look drastically different with facial hair, but nothing where I would have thought they went out of their way to catfish me.
Right.
But I've definitely shown up in person, I'm kind of like, oh, they, you know.
Yeah.
But I would never say it, like, I would reserve you didn't look like your pictures for something more serious.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, feedback, I don't think you volunteer. I think if people ask for it, like, I don't think you give, like, I think especially if someone's asking for it, they're trying to continue a conversation with you. So I, like, would withhold. But somebody, our next listener, got feedback that she did not ask for, and this is, I know for a fact this is going to infuriate.
Let's hear it!
Okay. It's a long one.
Okay.
Woo. All right. I, 26 female, recently out of a 3-year relationship, starting to date again and using the apps. Agreed to a date with one of my matches, 30 male, who, looking back, maybe I should have vetted a bit better. He was definitely a bit weird and we didn't vibe at all, but I was polite to him over the date and tried to make the most of it. It wasn't totally awful. Seemed like he was trying to be nice and polite as well, though I could sense he wasn't feeling it either. Sent a thank you text when I got home, which I always do on principle. Didn't indicate any further interest, though, and he sent a similar one back. Thought it would just be a mutual ghosting after this. The following day, though, he sends me a text. It was a direct and detailed rejection, along with basically a report card of my performance on the date. See below.
I'm gonna throw up right now.
Hey, my name. Really appreciate you taking the time to meet me. While it was mostly a pleasant evening, I saw a lot of red flags that made me think you weren't the right fit for me, and I'm not interested in pursuing this any further. You mentioned being recently out of a relationship, so I thought I'd send over some constructive feedback that might help you in your future dates. She puts in some commentary of what her explanation of it was. So first bullet point. When I asked you on the date, I said we would share a bottle of wine, which you agreed to. I went out of my way to choose a place best for that. However, when the waiter approached our table, you ordered an espresso martini. If you preferred cocktails, you should have suggested this during planning. Or, if you changed your mind last minute, you should have said something to me prior to ordering. Her notes. I didn't realize I did anything wrong here, but looking back, maybe I did. He never mentioned the wine again on the date, and he never said, let's get X bottle as we were looking at the menu. He was just looking down at the menu as I was. The server approached me first and asked me first, so I ordered. He didn't stop me and ordered a glass of wine for himself. His next bullet point. You put yourself as active on Bumble, but when asked where you work out and how often, you said you don't go to any gym and just do cardio. Active is for people serious about fitness. In the gym at least 2 hours a day, at least 5 days a week. If that's not you, you're supposed to put sometimes. She says, note, I'm actually currently training for a half marathon and work out by running. I run every day. I do some stretches and weights from home, but no, I don't go to the gym. Is that not active though? Next bullet point. You kept your phone on the table throughout the date. She says, I did, but I didn't touch my phone at all. It was on the table. I didn't think this was one of those restaurants where it wouldn't be okay. Sorry, next page. And there's one more bullet point.
Oh, no.
When I asked where you see yourself in 5 years, you gave a vague and uncertain answer and also mocked the question itself. I'm looking for someone consistently looking to better themselves. Is that supposed to be constantly? Okay, he needs to better his vocabulary. Someone with goals and a plan. Now, this might be more of a personal preference, as many others in this generation is known to be lazy and entitled. Learn grammar, man. But I thought it was worth bringing up. If you're looking to be taken seriously, don't laugh at serious questions. Her notes. I did not mock the question. I think I initially chuckled and said, ooh, loaded question, and said some vague things like hope to get a promotion, buy a house, meet a nice guy. I also added that I was recently out of a relationship and tech layoffs have made me feel like a lot's up in the air. And then he closes it out by saying, I'm sorry if this feels like a put down, but hopefully you can come to see my constructive criticism as helpful, even if it's not what you wanted to hear. Best of luck. She closes out by saying, I was beyond confused by this. I didn't respond, blocked the number. When I shared screenshots with my girlfriends, their thoughts were that he was salty and salty that I didn't want a second date. But that didn't feel like the vibe at all. It felt like a mutual mismatch. Also, while we didn't vibe on the date, he did seem polite. He wasn't preachy or condescending in person at all. I wouldn't have pegged him for the type to write something like this. I posted a story time to TikTok to see if anyone, especially dudes, had any opinion on where this came from, and was flooded by comments from incel types saying the guy was right and I was lucky to have gotten feedback, among other insults. I quickly deleted the video. So I have to ask, is this normal? This was the second date I've been on since getting out of a relationship, and it sort of has me stressed out. I'll have more experiences like this, and I don't know if my mental health can handle this right now. Was this a you can't fire me, I quit type text because I hadn't expressed interest, or something else?
I feel like my heart just kind of hurts for her because I get that, like, being like, oh my God, this was the second date that I've been on, and now when I go into the next one, I'm going to be so incredibly self-conscious that it's not going to be enjoyable. Yeah. The first thing that screams to me...
First, it's not normal. This is not...
It screams to me maybe, like, on the spectrum. Like, rudeness aside, it's very, like, you did not go according to my plan. Mm-hmm. And that was upsetting. Which I think is an excusable thing or an understandable thing. But then it was to put her down. He said it's not supposed to be put down. Yep. Yes, the fuck it is supposed to be a put down. What the hell are you talking about? Of course it is. Yeah. You're calling her stupid. You're calling her... Yeah, I think... I just feel terrible for her because, yes, this is not normal.
No. I think I've gotten the, like, proactive rejection text where it's, like, pat you on the head, like, good job, little girl, and by the way, this thing... But it was not bullet points like this. It also wasn't, like... just having these, like, dead set rules in your mind of, like, active means you go to the gym X amount of times a week.
Oh,
like, I don't think Bumble was clear on that. Like, it's also just, like, the problem with those types of things where it's, like, you self-identify yourself as something that's not, firm. Like, oh, you have a dog, you have a cat. But, like, what is active to me is different to somebody else.
Totally.
Like, Not everyone plays by
Totally.
your rules. And, like, unless Bumble had that listed, like, then she went by her own definition of active.
Well, and he had this, like, presumption. He had, like, a script, and
He had a
in his
script.
head, she's already a character, and she's already in the play. And if she doesn't read the script correctly, then it's upsetting to him. But it's like, okay, yeah, you said, we'll split a bottle of wine. And then you get there, and she orders something else, and you're like... I wrote the script for you.
Yeah.
And then says nothing, doesn't speak up at all, you know, and it's just like a later thing where he's probably seething through that whole interaction too, like, I was gonna order a bottle of wine, and then didn't say anything and let it build up, I'm sure.
Yeah, like at first it's not normal. I think I think there might be, and she said I don't have a picture of, you know, the behavior of this guy, but yeah, you know, maybe he had some, you know, social skills where he wrote a script ahead of time and she diverted from the script and it stressed him out in a way that was, you know, that upset him. And that would be more of a him thing than her. I think to go down the list of, like, the things that he claims are faux pas, I think first off, like, the thing about, like, we're going to go split a bottle of wine. If there is a plan within a plan, how much do you have to stick to it? Like, if someone says, we're going to split a bottle of wine on the dating app, you make the date, you go on the date, and between then and your date, there's no mention of the wine again. You sit down, there's no, oh, let's get this bottle of wine. There's no, like, oh, the wine, and then the server comes to you first and you pick something off the menu. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if he was so dead set on wine, it would be like, oh, here, let's look at this bottle, that bottle. Or maybe you kind of like, oh, like, hey, like, it's better to get a bottle of wine. Like, it just seems weird. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. It's sweet of her to be like, I was so confused, because I would be fucking pissed.
Yeah.
And that text would get a response.
Yeah.
You bet your ass it would.
Yeah.
I'm not letting that slide.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is insane.
It's weird. And, like, yeah, the thing I said about, like, active, I think that was the second bullet point. Everyone's version of active is different. Like, I do think there's a version of, like, a gym person, and it's annoying because, like, they're gatekeeping the fitness community where their version of, like, active or working out must take place in a gym. Like, someone who's, like, this certain type of gym nut. Like, if you were, like, basically a professional cyclist and you did all your fitness stuff outside on your bike, they would be like, you don't work out. Which is, like, annoying. It makes the fitness community look bad.
Yeah.
But also, I think most fitness people who see nuance wouldn't think that way at the end of the day. They wouldn't police the word active.
Yeah.
So that's, like, also not normal. The phone on the table, if it was a Michelin star, if it was the type of restaurant where you couldn't have your phone on the table, you would know.
Oh, I missed that part. That she had her phone on the table?
She had her phone on the table, that she didn't touch it, and he was like, you had your phone on the table.
Bitch, shut up.
Yeah.
Boo, shut up. That's fine. It's fine to have your phone on the table.
Yeah, like, unless
Come
it's,
on.
like, a Michelin's, and it probably wasn't. It sounds like it was a wine bar, cocktail bar.
Cocktail bar. And, you know, I think, well, so then there's that debate of, like, what's polite, to have your phone down or to have it up when you're
She
with
didn't
someone?
specify, but, like...
Because, like, I'll put my phone on the table, but I'll put it facing down, more just to be polite so that when it lights up, it doesn't distract me from the conversation. But then sometimes the other person is like, oh, well, your phone's here, but you put it face down because you're hiding something. You're hiding the text. You're hiding whatever.
And I'm trying to think, like, I feel like I never had, like, a game plan of, like, phone in the purse, phone on the table. Sometimes it'd be in the purse, sometimes it'd be on the table. I think, like, yeah, like, I never really, like, I never had anyone call out, why is the phone down if I put it down. It was just one of those big nothing burgers to me. And then, yeah, what was the last one? Oh, saying, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I think it is totally normal with any question. Like, when I was doing, like, sales training, like, when I was starting, like, my career in sales, I was always told, like, if you ever get a question that puts you on the spot, something that will save you time, help you collect your thoughts, is to either, like, chuckle and say, like, oh, you know, oh, loaded question, or be like, you know, that's a great question, or saying, like, some sort of filler like that. And it helps you collect your thoughts. Like, it's also, like, he asked her a job interview question. And, like, she was trying to be fun.
Yeah, that's
like,
a job interview question.
Like,
what the hell do you mean? What's your 5-year plan?
Yeah. Like, I would say, like, because I'm someone who's, like, I would call myself ambitious.
Sure.
If someone says, what's your 5-year plan at a time after hours when I have alcohol, I'm not going to go list off, like, a very technical thing. I'm
also not going to answer that question. I think if somebody's like, what's your 5-year plan? I'm almost like, that's rude of you to ask.
Yeah.
To me, I don't know. like, what are you planning to do? How are you planning to, like, better your life and make everything, and be successful? It's like, bitch, I'm here right now. I have thoughts. I have plans. I have ideas and dreams. I'm not gonna give you the rundown. Like, it's just kind of, like, rude to ask. It's like, can you just appreciate me being here right now?
Yeah, like, it's also, like, I do work all day and, like, have to answer boring questions. Like, no, we're not doing job interviews.
Boring ass
It doesn't
questions.
make you not ambitious. Like, I think some of the smartest people I know, like, are the most unassuming people ever. And, like, if they're outside of work, they're not talking work and,
totally.
ambition.
I feel like in work, there is some level of dishonesty or inauthenticity to the way that you are interacting with, like, clients or coworkers or whatever. And then after hours, it's so much more fun to be honest and authentic and, like, what are your thoughts right now on this thing? Like, rather than, how are you going to be the perfect spouse for
It's
me?
an awkward question for sure. And, like, I'm very awkward. Like, I think one thing, like, it sounds very like he listened to some Andrew Tate shit, but I do think she would have called if he was, like, just because of how my content is, if it was like High Value Man, Andrew Tate, like Red Pill, like, I think she would have said something if it was direct, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like, that type of stuff, or maybe, like, Red didn't read with nuance, like, I don't know, a David Goggins book, and is, like, reading it, like, down to the letter. I don't know. Like, I do think there's something around social awkwardness kind of thing there, though.
Yeah.
I don't think this girl did anything wrong.
No. Certainly not.
No.
Certainly not. No. Can I tell you about a weird little Hinge experience I had, like, a few days ago?
Absolutely.
It was right when we had gotten back from North Carolina, but there was this guy, and I matched with him on Hinge. He's real cute. Big muscles, and we were kind of chatting, bantering, and this was, like, on Hinge, and then he wanted my number so he could text me or whatever. And it seemed like kind of innocent Hinge banter, if not, like, playful. And I think I asked him, like, do you have an Instagram? And he wouldn't give it to me. And then, but then was like, here's my number, and blah, blah. And so I started texting him a little bit, even though I don't usually do that, because, like, it's weird to give your number to somebody right off Hinge. Like, I'm like, I want to see more of you a little bit before I give you my, whatever. And I was just asking him questions about stuff. I'm like, what do you do for a living? And he was like, all will be revealed in time, blah, blah, blah. Right? Okay, so that's not me being too much of a princess. Like, it was playful banter for a while. But I was like, yeah, that's kind of sketchy. And then he gave me his Instagram, and then he told me, like, what he does. But then next couple nights, he was kind of bugging me to come out, like, come do stuff. And it sounded like he wanted to set up, like, yeah, let's meet at Cidercade and let's blah, 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 blah. But just kind of the way that he was interacting with me, it was playfully rude to the point where I was like, hold on, you don't know me like that. And to ask me to take a night, and he was almost being, like, demanding, like, what are you doing with your time then? Like, why don't you come here right now? And it was just very, like, oh my God, you're asking me to come meet you somewhere and spend my night with you, but you're being really demanding, and, like, I'm supposed to expect that that's gonna be,
you win more.
That's gonna get
flies
better
with honey, like,
right?
It's like, if someone's like that's why it's like when someone writes a passive aggressive thing where it's like, oh, like, look at you not responding to your Hinge match or something like that. It's like, that is the fastest way to get a block. Like, fastest way to unmatch. That was, like, because I never unmatched people when I was on Hinge. I would if someone would put something passive aggressive. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, hey, just, like, check in. Just thought I'd check in on this. It's another to be like, oh, you're too good to respond, aren't you?
Done. You're done.
Out.
You're done. And honestly, I mean, that's probably the polite thing to do, but he had my number and he was texting me, and I was like, well, if you're going to be rude, babe, I'm going to be rude too. Yeah. And I was.
Nice.
I said some mean things, but I mean, for God's sake, I don't know this person, never met him, never seen him in real life, and I kind I'm like, okay, you wanted to step up swinging, like, let's go.
I feel like none of us are above snapping back at somebody who's pissing us off.
Right? And somebody that you've never met before, too.
Oh,
you have
it's
this
just
screen. It's just
all
so much
this stuff.
easier to be like...
But that's also probably part of why this guy also was so weird to this chick. Because, like, on the date, that's probably why he seemed normal. And after the fact, he had the safety of the screen.
Yeah.
To be like,
and he had been dwelling on it and digesting it and
he probably,
chewing on
here's your report card. Ugh, it's fucking annoying.
Here's your report card. I hate it. I hate
your
that.
constructive feedback.
Disgusting.
No, to this girl, that's not normal.
Absolutely not.
You don't have to be grateful for the feedback. Don't listen. Also, TikTok lives in extremes. That's what I'll tell everybody. Like, there is nothing, like, there is no nuance in TikTok. It is black and white. It is, it was a great thing or it's a horrible thing. You're great or you suck. Like, and so as much as, like, TikTok is easy to find data, as much as I'm on there and I appreciate all of you guys following me and following along and I enjoy making content, there are crazies.
Yeah.
The commenters are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of crazies out there.
A lot of crazies. Anyway, I think that's all we got for today.
Yeah.
We blasted through that. That was fun.
Oh my god, I feel like I just didn't stop talking the entire time. Awesome.
It was good. No, this was great. I can't wait to put this up. This will be up tonight, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Bye!
Ciao!